Hi everyone, I'm Frances. This is my husband Chris and our little girl Sienna. She was born on the 1st of August 2020. We live in the beautiful George in the Western Cape. We've been here for a few years. We're both doctors. Chris works in George, I work in Knysna, so I drive backwards and forwards. And I delivered her vaginal delivery with a lot of hypnobirthing and a lot of nitrous at 34 weeks, so a bit early. We did a hospital delivery with my gynae and the midwife that was on call, and it was just really lovely. I've always been interested in hypnobirthing, even more, you could say, being interested in slightly more alternative medicine, slightly more alternative way of doing things, even being a doctor. And I had a friend who had done she had her 2 babies with hypnobirthing, and it was just such a beautiful experience. A lot of birth stories that I hear are quite negative. People seeing that it's been this thing that's happened to them instead of from them, if that makes sense. And I was just really looking for something to, number one, help with my anxiety. I think normal birth anxiety is quite common. So that was the one thing. And then the second thing is I just wanted to feel part of the experience, and I wanted to be able to enjoy the experience. I didn't want to look back and have that thing of grabbing your husband by the neck saying, "You did this to me and it was horrible." It's a beautiful...
Now she says, "You did this to me."
It was a really beautiful pregnancy and a really beautiful delivery, and I'm just really pleased that we had done it. And pleased with the experience that that friend of mine had referred me to do your course. My birth story, my water broke at home. So I was 34 weeks and 4 days, and the Saturday morning, and I just finished having breakfast outside on the patio, and whoosh, all of a sudden my water broke. Chris was at work at the time. So at first, obviously, I think the main thing that everyone says is you're not quite sure, have you just peed your pants or did you actually rupture your membranes? So I had a bit of a moment where I wasn't too sure, and then I thought, no, this is definitely what's happened. And then straight away I felt quite anxious, and I actually just wanted to get to the hospital to check that she was fine and that everything was fine. So I called Chris to just say, listen, I'm on my way. And he said he'll meet me there. So luckily his boss could give him the break to say, just put your pen down and go. And he met me there. But in my panic, I didn't pack or take anything with me. I think I took a spare pair of panties and a toothbrush. And we got to the hospital and we confirmed definitely my waters had broken. They put me on the CTG. Her tracing looked fantastic. And then my contractions started. So the gynae came, we were over 34 weeks, we were happy to progress. Chris got there, and then we sort of realized, oh, this is happening. And I think at that point, all the kind of anxiety and build-up that I'd had just sort of instantly disappeared. And I just realized this is happening and it's fine. And I'm okay, and I'm excited. I think Chris was quite anxious still at that point. We had a lot of phone calls going backwards and forwards to family. And to our neighbour to say, please pack a bag for me. I mean, at 34 weeks, I kind of had a list of what I wanted to take to the hospital, but I definitely didn't have a bag packed. And I wasn't expecting, obviously, to go into labour at that point. So considering that there was that added anxiety, I was actually remarkably calm. And we're just really excited. So we got to the hospital at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And my neighbour quickly packed a bag and dropped it off for us. Obviously, with being COVID times, Chris wasn't allowed to leave and come back. So he was there in his hospital scrubs. My neighbour lovingly went through my messy room and messy house and packed a bag for me. And I had my own gown, I had my essential oils. We really made that room a safe, comfortable space. I was really happy that the hospital staff were quite keen for me to do that. we sort of just set the essential oils going in the corner, and then when they came in, I said, oh, I hope this is fine. And she said, oh, I love essential oils. So I was like, oh, thank goodness, because not that I don't think I would have switched it off anyways. But that was just really lovely, and it was a mix that I had been doing a few weeks leading up to the birth. So it was a familiar smell, it was a calming, I think it was like lavender and lemon, and that just made everything feel a little bit more, that we were a bit more in control of this crazy situation, and a little bit more like the safe, that the space I was in was my own. And having my own gown also made a big difference. And then I labored from 10 until 3. I was bouncing on the ball. I was walking up and down in my room, and coping really well. Every time that I felt a surge, I would very easily go into my safe space. Chris was a fantastic doula dad. Literally, I would just sort of walk up to him, and he would rub my back, do the pelvis pressure, and we would just breathe through the surges as they came, and it was completely manageable. So at about 3 o'clock, and then I had this feeling that I just wanted to lie down. I wanted to stop moving, and I actually just needed to kind of go inside myself and just lie down. And at that point, I said, "Oh, I think I need the epidural now. I think this has been great, but let's do the epidural."
No, that's what you said. You just wanted the nitrous.
Well, then we got the nitrous in the meantime, and then they came to check me, and they first did the CTG tracing for 20 minutes, and that looked fine. So okay, that was good. And then we thought, okay, well, can someone come and check me and get going for epidural? And then the sister checked me, and then she said, okay, I just want doctor to come and check you. And so then we waited a bit, and then the gynae came, and then by this point, I'm like inhaling the nitrous. I think I used up the whole hospital supply. But with the nitrous and doing the proper breathing really helped. I've had so many friends that said, oh, nitrous does not make a difference. But being able to do the surge breaths, so I had the mask in one hand, Chris on the other, sort of right here by my shoulder, and what really was just made such a difference is he counted my breaths, counted up to 5, and then counted down from 5 down to 1. And doing that, having the pause at the top, coming back down, that nitrous just kicked in and worked. Besides the feeling of euphoria and being quite giggly, that was also quite entertaining, I think, for everyone else in the room. But it wasn't, I didn't feel unwell from being dizzy. I didn't feel like I was faint. It was just a different kind of this euphoria. It was lovely. Chris, together with the nitrous oxide in one hand, Chris right by my shoulder on the other side, counting my breaths, making sure that I was taking good, deep breaths, counting up to 5, counting down from 5. And so when we were doing the course and doing my safe space at Buffalo's Bay, which is a lovely beach just before Knysna, there's a certain spot by rock pools that I've always loved. And we had a little bit of time off a few weeks before the delivery, and I just went and sat there. And Chris was sitting behind me, so he knew exactly what my safe space was. He knew exactly what it looked like. He knew exactly what I was picturing. And when I was doing my breaths and when I was inhaling the nitrous, I had Chris just reminding me of what the safe space was and what I was looking at and what I would be hearing. And I felt this sort of out of body, I was at the beach. And it was just this incredible feeling, because it's not, it's painful, it's sore, you're laboring, but to have this peace and calm and know that you're okay and know that you've got this place that you can go to cope with the pain was amazing. So I never ended up getting my epidural, because every time someone came to check me and ummed and ahed, the next thing, a delivery pack was being opened, and then the NICU nurse was there. And so just before 6 o'clock, she was born. The pushing part was probably the toughest, because they took my nitrous away from me. And again, it was this thing, and it was so lovely to have the team, and the midwife and my gynae is so lovely that I was just saying, oh, I can't do this, and everyone in the room was like, yes, you can, and just speaking positive affirmations over me. I'd printed a lotus flower for myself, and I'd written affirmations in the lotus flower, and I had that up on the wall. So I had that to sort of also this reference to look back at. And that really just reminded me of everything that I'd learned in the course, all the experience that I had gained. It just brought that into the room, that I could actually use those resources. Because I think a lot of times when I'd spoken to people about hypnobirthing, or that I was doing hypnobirthing, they'd often said, well, you know, when you're in labor, you might feel differently. And it was this constant thing to say, I'm in charge of this. I'm in charge of my mind. I'm in charge of how I respond to things. And that's why it was so useful to have Chris, is that every time if there was slight panic or the surge was a bit stronger than the previous one, that he could ground me again and say, you know what you're doing. You can do this. We can get you to that safe space. And so it was just a really, I mean, even though it was completely not at all what we had expected, you know, my birth plan was that I would go into labor at 3 a.m. and I'd labor at home and only go in when I was fully dilated. And obviously none of that happened. And even despite that, I still describe it as just a completely perfect birth. One massive curveball is that I'd had the COVID test. So on arrival, they tested me. And just as I transitioned into active labor, the sister came with the results to say, you are COVID positive. So I'd had no symptoms. I was feeling well. I was feeling strong. And I think I had a moment where I could have been freaked out by that. And I saw everyone else in the room was freaked out by it, but I just thought, you know, this is happening. I cannot be freaked out about this. I'm in the zone. This is happening. And I'm really thankful for that, because it just really could have turned the whole situation on its head. And luckily it didn't. What was your experience of the day?
Yeah, I think when Frances told me she wanted to do hypnobirthing, I didn't know really what to think initially, but I think Frances can sometimes be a little bit anxious about things. And so as I said, listen, just do it. And as she went through the course, it was quite interesting to see her change in her perspective and really practicing it. So she did the course properly and didn't allow the thinking of other people to really influence her too much. And
because that is such a massive thing, that you hear these negative stories after negative stories, and you just think, why does it need to be like that? And again, it's this thing of like, I'm choosing not to have that. And that affirmation of, you know, I focus on what I want rather than what I fear. Like, that was just constantly throughout my pregnancy, something that every time that I'd find myself slipping into a negative space, and I'd go back to my pregnancy affirmations and back to just reminding myself, this can be the experience I want. This can be the beautiful experience. So it was really useful throughout the whole pregnancy.
Yeah, and I think during the delivery, Frances kind of just carried on. And I think that what was more impressive for me was after, so because Sienna was prim and had low sugars and needed a little bit of support, she went to ICU. And I think what was so incredible for me was after the birth, how calm Frances remained. And obviously, an appropriate amount of emotion was shown. So
everyone's joining in.
But the fact that she remained so calm through the whole process and was able to really just take what needed to be done, and she started expressing, and she started, when she came home, she just did all things that needed to be done and remained quite calm considering how horrible the situation was, that we couldn't get to see him and it had to wait for 10 days.
Yeah.
So I think it's the mindfulness and the knowledge of your mind is quite strong and is able to control the emotions that you sometimes feel when the emotions want to be irrational and take control. I think if your partner's done it and you don't really do it, you don't understand the different parts of what she's going through in terms of her psychological state at that stage. So I think having listened to, or she would often play the course while we'd be in bed before we go to sleep, and I would hear parts of it. I kind of listen. You hear the different components of the affirmations. You hear different parts of the thing like the safe space visualization and that kind of stuff. And I think that helped me know what she was trying to achieve, and for me, she just helped to get it there. I didn't breathe for her. I just reminded her to breathe that way. So I think she still had to do it. But I think if I didn't know what she needed at that stage, and I kind of I saw that she was not breathing that well.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was something that she practiced. So I just said, listen, let's breathe. And then I just started counting. And then I think it kind of just became easier for me just to do it with her. And then just went from there. And I think the back rubbing and those kind of things, if I hadn't known about them, I wouldn't have done it effectively and wouldn't have realized how important it is for her that I do that. So I think that all helped. I think that I was just so impressed that Frances did this whole thing and just had a bit of nitrous and nothing else. And it was quite, I was very proud of her.
She was born, and they did delayed cord clamping, which was lovely. And then they put her on my chest, and then she had a little bit of nasal flaring, and then she was starting to cool down quite quickly. So they wrapped her up, put her in the warmer, and then we had a quick cuddle with her, and then whoops, off she went to the NICU. And that was, at the time, I didn't kind of realize what was going on. I think I was just sort of taken by the whole experience and like, what just happened? And then it was only a little while later that I kind of realized, oh my goodness, so she's in the neonatal ICU, I'm COVID positive, I'm not allowed in at all. And because she needed IV fluid, they weren't happy to bring her out to me, which is understandable, but it was just such a weird situation. And then on the same, on the one hand, to be told, your baby's fine, she's doing okay, but she's here and we have to separate you, but also please just give us some breast milk. We'd really love you to start expressing and get colostrum for us. I mean, stress and colostrum and breast milk do not go hand in hand. And so I think that was also just that when I found myself getting overwhelmed, to go back to my affirmations, to go back to my breathing, to just recognize that this is a difficult situation, but I can be in charge of it, and I can be in charge of how I respond. And those 10 days actually went really quickly, and we reunited and we've got her. But it was just fantastic to see that it's not just about the birth. It was in the pregnancy as well, the whole birth experience, and then afterwards as well. And even now I found myself going back to breathing when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Go back to the breathing. I think we had a difficult night the other night, and Chris said, just go to your safe space. Just go to your safe space. So it's become quite in our household, the norm now to breathe yourself out of a difficult situation and to take yourself to your safe space and to not be so easily overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for partners to do the course. I think, Chris, so being doctors, we want things to be scientific. We want things to be, proven. Where's the research? Where's all the journal articles and whatever? And so in the beginning, he was quite skeptical. But I think it's proven itself now. And we are now hypnobirthing converts and telling all of our friends to do the course. It was just absolutely invaluable. I think the tools that were the most helpful for me were the safe space. The pregnancy affirmations were like constantly going. And then the fear release, that was a really lovely track to listen to for me. And then the breathing, practicing the breathing. So my lung capacity is not great. I mean, in the beginning, I think I could only do like inhale 4. But over time and practicing, I could feel my diaphragm relaxing, and then your pelvic floor relaxes. And so it was really also helpful to sort of just get in tune with my body and what I'm feeling in my abdomen. That was very interesting with the breathing. And whenever we drove anywhere, I would put the partner affirmation tracks on for Chris. And I think it was just really useful. I mean, I had it on my cell phone, and so I could just, at the drop of a hat, if sometimes I had a quiet day at work and I was just doing admin, I would just have my pregnancy affirmations going in the background, and that the staff found quite amusing as they were coming in. But it's not about that. And I think also that I think there's a lot of pressure when you do the course to listen very intently to the tracks and to really take them in. But after a while, you kind of realize that you can have them going in the background as well. And that's also still helpful. It's still it's the same thing like when you're doing the relaxed one. We all go off to sleep, but that's still going in subliminally, subconsciously. It's still going in. So I think that was also just important, because a lot of people that I've spoken to say, oh, I just don't have time to listen to the tracks. And I mean, you can literally just put it on at any time. And so that was a really big help to just have it on my cell phone. So it's so easy accessible. I mean, being a student, I've delivered many babies, and I've been part of many births in my student years, in my doctor years. And I knew what to expect. You know, I know labor, I know the process. I had to write exams on this, duh. But I was very aware that being the laboring woman is going to be different than what I've seen. And I think that was also why I was sort of very keen to do the course, because they're not the same thing. Knowing what to, you know, having seen it and experiencing it is different. And knowing what to expect. So that I feel that your course takes really nicely through the steps of, this is what you can expect, this is how it's going to go, that you can feel empowered and you can feel excited, because you know what's happening to your body, you know what's happening to yourself, and you can just relax into that. It's not a process that you can control. It's not a process that you can speed up or slow down. Your body will do its thing. So get on the train and enjoy the ride, and have the tools that make it a pleasant experience.